So good morning, back to it. Another Tuesday. How the week's just rolling to one, and yeah, I'm just looking outside the window, and luckily it's not raining this morning, so hopefully we can all get out and get a bit of fresh air. I've just been talking to my guest today about the weather and how it really does change your mood. And I know yesterday I really struggled. I found it a really depressing day. So it's nice to have a bit of brighter sky today. I'm really excited to be talking to this morning's guest. It's somebody that I've had lots of conversations with in the past, and she has been super patient with me because my technical skills have often let me down. So this morning I'm delighted, thank goodness, that it's all worked and we can catch up and find out all about Emi Howe's journey and how she is making massive changes with her BodEquality. So I'm going to introduce you to Emi. Good morning, Emi.
Morning. Hi, how are you doing?
Good. I'm good, thank you. It's lovely to see you again. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
We were talking briefly earlier about lockdown. How's that kind of affected you? Have you managed with it okay?
Yeah, it's been okay. I was just saying, I think it's been quite an eye-opener. I realised I've been spending far too much money on time entertaining my children. They're at home and they're more than happy being at home.
Yeah.
Lots that they can find to do, and we just don't really make the effort to do these things at home. But we've enjoyed really lovely family times, which I'll cherish. I'll look back on this time, and there'll be a whole mixed bag of emotions. Of course, there will be some really happy memories in here as well. So it's good.
So we met, I was trying to think, we probably met about 3 years ago at an event in London. And I think that's probably when you just started making kind of progress with BodEquality. So for anybody that doesn't know about you, how would you describe your journey to getting to where you are now?
Well, BodEquality, our tagline is valuing real bodies. So that's what I care about. The mission statement is to reframe the relationship that we have with our bodies, inducing radical, healthy repercussions, allowing us to feel good about our bodies, inducing radical, healthy repercussions. So that's what it's all about. The way that I got here is I've always felt that there's been this duality of life, where we live in a very media-centric world. We are exposed to so much media, much more media messages than maybe messages we get from our peers or our families or things like that. And it shapes a massive part of who we are. It shapes a massive part of our reality, actually. So we live in that reality where things are rushed, things are edited, things are screened for, certain, whatever that it is, skinny, blonde, white, we get a very similar view of what bodies should be. Young.
Yeah.
I've always felt that there's been a real problem in the fact that we live in that world, but we also live in the real world where the diversity of real bodies is evident everywhere. Like we live in a world where bodies are different. We live in these two worlds, the real world where we know that bodies are all different, and rationally speaking, we are all entitled to having our own type of body and owning the diversity that we play in society, but we don't really think about it in those terms, I guess, to a great degree. But for the most part, we live in this other world and feed into our values and our kind of expectations of ourselves in this other fake world that's kind of more has more of a kind of hold over us, I suppose. So I've always been really interested in that juxtaposition. I did sociology at degree level, and kind of studied the media at that point as well, and looked at impact our behaviour. But it wasn't until I was diagnosed 2012 with breast cancer that I really had to sort of make. At the time, it wasn't about making peace with my body. I really had to acknowledge my body. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Because it had suddenly what had before been kind of like a low-lying kind of wanting a certain type of body and feeding into kind of thoughts and messages around a certain type of body had suddenly now become, oh, well, now you can't possibly have that body that you thought you one day would have.
Yeah.
I think we all have that thing of this imaginary body that we one day might have.
Definitely, yeah. We all buy clothes that, you know, are one size too small just so we can get into it, and it just never happens.
We absolutely do that. And that, I don't know why we do that. I remember buying a pair of shorts a few years ago and thinking, I really like the shorts. They don't quite fit, but that's okay, because that's real motivation for me getting into them, isn't it? Even still me, when I do all this work, you know, still have these thoughts. So I think we have this idea of a body that we one day will have. And what I really care about is what goes into that. If we don't ever get that body, if it's physically impossible to get that body, as the statistics show, 95% of women are physically unable to achieve the thin ideal body. Sorry, I've seen you cry. If 95% of us are unable to achieve that thin ideal body, then that's an awful lot of wasted energy and wasted time and wasted what they call mental weight or mental labor, thinking about how we're not good enough, how we need to be better, how we need to do something else. But it also, you know, it affects our clothes, it affects our food choices, our exercise, it affects a barrier to health actually as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I've gone off on a bit of a tangent here. Anyway,
no, it's good.
So I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I had a double mastectomy, and through the course of the years of recovery, it took me a while to recover and really kind of get to a place where it's similarly to this, the new normal. It came along with a great acceptance of my body. We spend a lot of time apologizing for our bodies. It's a real kind of female code. You know, if I put my body down, you can then maybe build me up about my body, and then we can have a little conversation, and it's a bonding thing. You know, certainly I noticed how even strangers kind of find it a way to kind of connect with other women. You know, women who don't know each other find connection through dissing our bodies, basically. And so rather than apologizing for it, I felt like I want to apologize to it, because what I've kind of put it under, the stress I've put it under throughout my life, was just so unnecessary. The expectation I put on it was really, really unnecessary.
Yeah, I think every woman would just be able to relate to that, because we are so unfriendly to our bodies over the years. And I've wasted so many years not doing things because my body and my lack of self-confidence in my body stopped me from doing silly things, playing a game of tennis because you're worried about what you look like. And it's just ridiculous. And when you get to the point where you accept it, life becomes so much freer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's kind of a big relief, and you know, it's not something that you learn and then you just know it and overnight you're changed. It's something that you sort of grow and build on, I guess. I think it's a bit more like learning a language than learning how to do like a maths equation. You can learn how to do maths equation. Sorry,
go on. I was just going to say, how finish your maths equation, do it.
Once you know how to do it, you know how to do it. But with this and with languages, you can constantly build on it.
So how did you get to that point, though? What were your building blocks?
I worked with an amazing photographer, Jane Briscoe Price, and I charted the changes that happened with my body. And that was a really interesting process, because right at the beginning of a breast cancer diagnosis, one of the things that occurred to me is I just don't know what to expect. I just don't know what my body is going to be left like at the other end. And obviously, and so I wanted to create that that journey for other people, but also for myself, to show, you know, and what it has turned out to be is quite a positive result. You know, I'm happy with how my body looks. It's not how I would have wanted it to feel necessarily, because it's not as soft as it was. But certainly, you know, as my husband said the first day the bandages came off, well, that's not as much of a car crash as I was expecting. In all of his masculine sensitivity. But it's a lot of fear around what my body is going to look like. You know, is it going to look like a doll? you know, it's one of those things that was quite unnerving. And so working with Jane does an amazing job of creating, like, you know, wonderful images. And whilst I'm also conscious that I don't want to create unreal images, I don't want it to be too false. And hopefully we haven't done that too much. We started off, and I know that she was sort of airbrushing it to begin with. And then sort of into the project, I was like, oh no, I don't want that that to be done. I want it to be just real, and you know, all the rest of it. So yeah, I think hopefully we've achieved that. So that was one thing. But then also just learning, like there's a lot of resources out there, some amazing films to watch. I remember going to see the film Embrace with friends and sitting in the cinema afterwards and sort of just crying. We were meant to be going to dinner. I was like, girls, I'm just going to need to have a minute.
Yeah, it's brilliant. If anybody hasn't seen it, they really need to see that. It's such a good documentary. It's so powerful.
Yeah, I recommend it to anyone. And also, sort of around the time that we met, I was kind of I was doing a campaign and working a lot on social media and following a lot of different bodies, different people and their bodies. Quite often, I think our social media feed can become very insular, much just what's kind of almost organically happened that we follow that really feeds into a narrow view of the world. Yeah. Well, I started sort of purposefully curating that feed so that I would see lots and lots of different bodies and lots of different opinions. And you, yourself, you know, you're one of those people that I follow that what I'd never seen before. I'd say before 2017, I've never seen an image, a commercial image of anybody or any other kind of image of anybody not sucking their tummy in. Like, and now I see lots and lots of images like that. But that's such a crazy expectation to put on a whole, well, a whole group of people. If every image you see, they're sucking their tummy in, then that's a really unrealistic value. So people like yourself, and what was lovely to see is the people modelling in the way that traditional models would, but doing it in different bodies so confidently and so comfortably. That's a real turning point for me. So yeah, so just changing sort of who I was following and what I was kind of seeking out to fill my mind with on a daily basis made a massive difference as well.
So part of this journey, and then obviously the people you were following and creating your feed, I guess kind of sparked this passion for wanting to make a difference, which is where BodEquality came from.
Yeah, I mean, I was part of an M&S campaign back in 2017. It was I was a Breast Cancer Now ambassador, and we did a campaign, myself and 6 other ladies, for Marks and Spencer's, for their lingerie department. It was a brilliant campaign. It was full of diversity. I loved being part of it. And we were invited at the time to go and speak on Loose Women. And I knew what I wanted to say. And yeah, I kept rolling through these, like getting really nervous about being on the telly and then being really calm and just kind of feeling ready. And luckily they came to me at a point that I was feeling quite calm and I managed to get out what I was trying to say. And what I said was that we don't value our bodies in the way that we should. You know, we basically hate on our bodies an awful lot. And what we don't do is value, you know, the achievements that they've made, the activities that they enable us to do, the skills that they've given us, the careers, the races that we've won, the achievements that we've done, but also, you know, the children that we've created. I mean, it's mind-boggling. The body is just the biggest phenomenon. Been able to replicate it through, you know, all this time on this planet. Skin is such a phenomenon of kind of manufacturing. Can you imagine? There's nothing else that's been able to replicate it, certainly for its healing potential. And you know, just there's so much that we don't value it for. So that's where it started. And I left the studio. I was like, oh no. what have I done here? Because I'd clearly like seeded something that needed to grow.
Yeah.
And it has taken 3 years to grow it into a product that now, is actually useful to people.
So what do you do? What kind of things do you do now? I know you do a lot of public speaking events. So tell us what you do with BodEquality.
Yeah, so BodEquality, I go into businesses. I'm a corporate body image coach. So I go into businesses and talk to businesses about body image. It's sort of how we're having a chat here now. I've developed, and I also want to hasten to add, it's not as a response to our current pandemic, because it wouldn't have been possible to. We were always developing an online resource so that companies could raise awareness across the whole organisation bodies. What's really important is how body talk, and sometimes fat talk, but there are lots of different discriminations that feed into this conversation. But body talk is very kind of normalized in our society. Having anxiety around bodies and taking the mickey out of bodies has become so normalized as to, we don't recognize that it can be discriminating, it can be abusive, it can for people cause some real mental health glitches. But on a widespread kind of issue, what I'm really mindful of is what barriers it creates to the 3 Ps, so potential, performance, and productivity. But also, we had 20 different for the course, and they were saying things like, I was bullied in the changing rooms at school. I've never been swimming since. Or, I am too big to do exercise. I don't feel like I will be laughed at. I will get abuse thrown at me, so I don't exercise. So it's creating barriers to the actual health that we assume, that those people should have, which also isn't necessarily true. There are a plethora of reasons that people have different bodies. It's not that kind of very simplistic view of diet and exercise equals the ideal body. It couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, I was doing a yoga video the other day, and this is something that, again, I work in this sphere, so it hadn't occurred to me at all that the yoga instructor on YouTube was saying about how differences in skeletal structure meant that she was not able to touch her head to the floor in like a child's pose position, but some people can, and it's purely to do with how her skeletal structure. Her legs are very long, her torso short, and it's just there's loads of different things that mean that bodies are diverse, that they're different. We need to start acknowledging that.
I think it's fantastic that you're doing this, because it just creates that conversation that's so needed to change the way everybody in society thinks and stop that judgment. We're also quick to judge each other and ourselves, and so these conversations are really important.
Yeah, and I think they've never really happened before in the corporate. They happen among women, maybe having a chat or over a drink or something like that. But there isn't kind of that safe space to have these conversations at work, and yet it's a massive kind of part of people's lives. 91% of women and 40% of men feel have a negative relationship with their body, and it impacts stress and depression, anxiety, even suicidal thoughts sometimes. It's massive, really, and what I hope to have done is to have created a tool to start having safe conversations in a safe space to talk about it.
Can you get it in all the advertisers, please? Can you get it in all their offices? All the marketing.
I'm going to try really hard. The one of the motivations as well that came out of it was the campaign that I did in 2018 was all about doing just that, was to try and get advertisers to try and change the advertising codes, actually, so that adverts had to have a diverse range of bodies in them. They couldn't just be one thin person after another another. And it didn't fly, not at all. Something from an insider view told me that the codes don't change without society changing. They respond to pressure, they don't impose the pressure, if that makes sense. So it would need to reflect society's changing views, and we're not there yet. So my next thought was, right, how do we change society's views in order to can change the codes? So that's kind of my motivation. I want to get it out to as many people as I possibly can, and start having these conversations in every office in the world.
Do you think we have had changes? Do you think we are starting to make progress, particularly in like advertising and marketing and diversity? Do you think it's genuine change?
I do. I can see. I mean, that post that Calvin Klein has put out.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's brilliant, isn't it? I mean, that is fantastic, and that's what people want to see. And that's what we need to see more of if we to authentically value real bodies. So yeah, I think it definitely is changing. I'm certainly seeing a change. Even in year on year, I'm seeing a change. I'm seeing more diversity come into adverts because they're recognizing the value of it as well. You know, I think something like when Dove was kind of like the kind of forerunner of it, and I think in their first sort of season they took something like 600% more through their kind of diversity advertising. I mean, maybe they could market a bit, but there is a real market there for, you know, I am past this now. We are beyond tearing bodies down. Surely they can see that, or at least start to be able to see it. No matter how glossily you dress it up into, you could have all this. The conversation is really changing, but what I'm concerned about is that it might be changing on the surface, and people might not fundamentally understand what the importance of it and why, and what the kind of deeper kind of implications of it are.
Yeah, I think it's almost become a bit of a tick box exercise without them really understanding why they're ticking it.
Yeah, and I think as well, I think that's a hard one, because the tokenistic side of things, if we don't do the tokenistic work, then maybe the work just doesn't get done. So there has to be a place for it in the beginning, in the short term, I guess, to start exploring this. But yeah, it needs to be underpinned with some deeper kind of understanding of why we're doing it, what the point of it is. You know, there's kind of a social obligation as well as a kind of mental health obligation, as well as a diversity obligation. There's lots of different things that feed into it. So.
Well, keep going. You're doing a fantastic job, and I look forward to watching everything that you're doing. And get it out there and get it into all those businesses. It's brilliant, Emi. Lovely to talk to you, and take care of yourself. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Emi. My website?
Yes, do. Yes.
So my website, if you're interested in the course, it is available now. You can do it as an individual, and I think they've got an offer on the platform that's doing it at the minute. It's an offer. It's only about £13 to do it. It's BodEquality. So bod without the Y, body without the Y, bod, and then the word equality.com. And
how can people find your social media?
The same, at BodEquality.com is my Instagram handle, and on LinkedIn, just my name, Emi Howe.
Brilliant. Well, I'll put all those details on the notes after this as well, but thank you so much. Fantastic. Pleasure to see you, as always.
And you, Rachel.
Thanks, Emi.
Bye.
Well, that was just a really interesting conversation. I could talk to Emi all morning. She just got lots of wisdom, and she's doing an amazing job. So I hope you found that inspiring. If you are enjoying these talks, I've been really, really delighted by the response. I've had over 2,000 downloads in the last 2 weeks, which is just amazing. So don't forget to like and follow Out of the Bubble so that you can keep up to date with my guests. And I'll be back tomorrow morning with a new guest. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.